Now is the perfect time to pivot. Hey guys, if you're watching this video, Q1 is officially over. We are making our way towards being halfway through the year, which is crazy to think about. But what does that mean for you? Did you have big plans for where your business would be, where you would be personally at this point? I think it's time for us to do a little check-in. I have my laptop with me with some notes, so let's get straight into it. The first thing that I want to touch on is why you shouldn't wait until the end of the year to make changes. Here's the reality. Some of you might have started off the year with some big ambitions, but you may not have actually taken the time to sit down and create a strategy. Now, when I say the word strategy, I'm not talking about tactics like how many times you're going to post on Instagram or daily or weekly operational things that you're going to do to kind of get to where you want to be. I mean the big vision for where you're headed. This includes your goals, also the key drivers for how you're going to get there as well. Now, I know just saying that, some of you might realize that you never actually had a strategy in the first place. Maybe you thought that you creating a weekly to-do list was a strategy, and now you're realizing that it's not, and that's completely okay. But here's the thing, just because we are in Q2 and outside of the first 3 months of the year, it doesn't mean it's too late. Imagine waiting until the very end of the year before you realize that you never had a strategy all along and you didn't necessarily get to where you wanted to be. Like I said earlier, now is the perfect time to pivot. Now is the perfect time to course correct. The first thing to remember is that it's just not too late. It's never too late. And the second thing to realize is that it actually could be at your advantage to do it right now. Why? Because you actually have some data under your belt. So if you're an entrepreneur who thought this year was going to be your breakthrough year, now you actually have several months of information under your belt to realize what's working and what's not working. Or if this was more of a personal lifestyle redirect for yourself, you have several months of data to understand what you've been able to accomplish or why you haven't been able to accomplish certain things, what the barriers are to you actually making progress towards your goal. All of that is not just really good information to have, it's really valuable information to have. The key takeaway here that I want you guys to remember is that it's just not too late. It's never too late to pivot, and it's really just about being intentional about it. So now that we have some of that data that I talked about earlier, let's talk about what we can actually do to set ourselves up for success and get back on track. I want to talk to you guys about a concept that is probably one of the most important concepts that you haven't really heard of, and that is a business or life retrospective. So I was actually recently on a podcast called the Effortless Online Systems Podcast with Nivek, where she actually interviewed me all about this. So I'll leave that link down below if you guys want to hear more. But essentially, a retrospective is really taking the time to sit down and reflect on all that has happened, whether it's good, bad, and really develop and craft some forward-looking changes that you can make. And again, it's typically a business retrospective, but I'm just very much so a personal development girly, so it can definitely apply to being a life retrospective, and I've done this as a life retrospective as well. And I'm telling you guys straight up, if you dedicate yourself to doing this retrospective, you are ahead of 99% of people. Why? Because most people never actually look back in a thoughtful way with the right data in hand to make better decisions moving forward. A lot of the times we just make decisions, we pour all of our effort, our time, all of our resources into a new direction, and we never really assess if it's working or not until it's kind of too late. And I actually want to give you guys an example from a client that I worked with. So essentially, she came to me with this big problem of not having enough time. And this is a problem that a lot of solopreneurs or owner operators find themselves with. It's like they're running a business, but they're spread thin because they do everything. She was specifically in the bookkeeping space, so she was helping other businesses with their finances, managing their books, so on and so forth. And it's really, really interesting how she framed the problem to me. So I remember her basically being like, Yusra, I am so busy, I don't even have enough time to really get more clients. And that raised a couple red flags for me, because first of all, if you don't have the time to be able to capture new leads, to engage in the sales process in order to get new clients, that means you don't have enough time to service those clients and make more money. So even though she never said this to me, what I was able to conclude is that she had already reached her ceiling. She had already capped her income just based on the fact that she had no more capacity. She had no more to give within her business. So I worked with her to create a time audit of her days and her weeks to understand how she was really spending her time and what tasks were taking up the most amount of time. And what we found is that she spent so much time, guys, on digital marketing. Like when I say so much time, I'm talking almost 50% of her time. Like it was something like 40-something% of her time was spent on digital marketing. Now, for some people, this might not really be an issue because you might look at it like, hey, when you're spending your first year doing this, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time. Now, again, this was a huge red flag for me because you told me that you didn't have the time to really be able to invest in getting new clients, but you were spending the majority of your time actually trying to get new clients. The math just wasn't mathing. And essentially, what I had her do is we pulled the data on how many clients she had gotten through digital marketing activities, digital marketing efforts. Do you guys know what the answer is? 0. She got 0 clients through social media, through digital marketing. All of the clients that she had ever had, she had gotten through word of mouth and her network. And the thing is, guys, that's how most people build their businesses. Yes, you might use digital marketing initially to gain some traction, get those first couple of clients, but after that, it tends to be word of mouth and your network if you run a service-based business in particular. So this is just such a clear example of how if she had never sat down with me, if we had never done the work to look at what activity she's currently engaged in, what has worked in the past, what that means for the future, she would have continued to do the same thing over and over and over again, and it wouldn't have led to better results for herself. And I just want to say that a lot of the times the answers are not buried, guys. Like they are literally in plain sight for us to make better decisions moving forward. But oftentimes we just don't want to see it, or we just don't care to actually look. So now that Q1 is over and you want to pivot and you want to achieve the success you're looking for the remainder of the year, you have to actually look. You have to actually seek the answers that will allow you to make changes. And I guarantee you those changes are small but impactful changes. They're probably not going to require you, changing your whole strategy if you had one in the first place. It's just going to tell you what angle you need to head towards. Am I going right or am I going left? The other thing that a retrospective really allows you to do as well is it allows you to double down on what's working. In the case of that bookkeeping client, she was able to then pivot and double down on what was working. She was able to create new opportunities for herself by focusing on what has worked in the past instead of trying to constantly, reinvent the wheel and do something new. You probably don't have to do anything new. You probably just need to look towards what is working and double down on that. And the reason why that's so important, guys, is because, I don't want to go on a whole tangent here. Long story short, when you focus on the things that you're already doing, when you're focusing on the things that are already in your zone of genius, it actually requires so much less effort on your part, and it, in my opinion, is likely what will lead to increased success in a shorter amount of time, as long as the things that you're doing are working in the first place, right? And that's why doubling down on them is so important, because it doesn't necessarily require more time. It doesn't necessarily require more money or more resources. It just requires more focus, dedication, and concentration towards that thing. And think about it, guys, that is so much easier than doing something new all the time. And this is the problem. What's new tends to be what's most exciting for people, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's what's the most impactful or the most efficient for your business. In fact, I can guarantee you it's probably what's not the most efficient for your business. I don't know if you guys have heard of the idea of boring businesses. Cody Sanchez, she's this entrepreneur. She talks about how she buys boring businesses, things like laundromats, that sort of stuff. There's a lot of opportunity within these businesses that are overlooked. I want to encourage you guys to focus on is kind of just the boring processes, the boring tasks, the ones that you've done so much that they're no longer shiny and new to you. But guess what? They've kind of become like a well-oiled machine at this point. And again, when you conduct your retrospective and you're able to assess if it's working or not, if it's valuable or not, then it becomes the driver of how you can really see your business skyrocket. Whether that's in terms of revenue, sales, new opportunities, or reducing the amount of hours that you're working. They say the devil's in the details, and I agree. It's the perfect opportunity to double down on these boring tasks, these boring processes, and really, really ensure that you have them so efficient, automated. It's something that like the back of your hand. All of this to say, a business retrospective is a huge opportunity for you guys, even if the year has already started. And again, I talk about what this looks like more with Nivek in the podcast, but all of this to say, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be a huge, giant ordeal or task that you have to do. You can kind of conduct a little business reflection, just a quarterly insight meeting where you're looking back on what works and what hasn't worked. And another reason why it's so important is because we often talk about burnout, and this can help you stay away from burnout or recognize the signs of burnout. Because here's the thing, what you're doing or how you're operating right now might not be sustainable, right? Like maybe it's worked for a couple of months in the year, but can you really maintain this momentum for the next however many months or years? It just might not be possible. So again, this reflection on where your business is at is a perfect opportunity to assess what resources you do need. Is there an opportunity to bring somebody into your business? Is there an opportunity to invest in a new tool that can help you do things quicker? Nothing's off the table. Everything's on the table. But are you even looking at the table? Right? Like we have to make some decisions moving forward, and in order to make those decisions that are going to be the most impactful, that will lead to a sustainable business for ourselves, we have to boss up and do the things that not many other people are doing. And again, guys, if there's one thing that you should take from this video, it should be that you shouldn't wait until the end of the year to make changes in your business. And if you need help making those changes, make sure you subscribe to my channel down below and binge all the free content on here, or book a call with me down in the description. Bye, and I'll see you in the next video.